So here we are in the 7th grade classroom, and we're just talking about vocations, and obviously today specifically priesthood. And I guess a few of you might have a few questions about priesthood. Who wants to start off with a question or two?
When did you learn about your vocation?
When did I learn about my vocation? Well, as I was mentioning, my dad's uncle was a priest, and so my parents were close to him. So I'd say even at a young age I had some, I guess, awareness, or a little more awareness of priesthood than the average person, just having my dad's uncle a priest. And my parents were active in the church, so again, I think just being in a large, active Catholic family was probably part of it. And then in junior high, there was the assistant priest at our parish was good family friends of ours, so again, more interaction with the priest. But then once I went to college, or even in high school, I mean, I wasn't ever really seriously considering priesthood as a young person, or even in college, until later in college, I started to pray more, read more, talk more about my faith, and then eventually too getting involved in a prayer group at St. Boniface in Lafayette. Father Tim Alkire was the pastor, still is, Knights of Immaculata. So I'd say also too through a devotion to the Blessed Mother, started praying the Rosary more often. So yeah, I think it just kind of built. Probably towards the end of my junior or beginning of my year, my senior year in college, I started thinking about, got more serious about it. So yeah, any other questions?
How did you find your calling?
How did I find my calling? I guess you can say obviously it is a personal calling, priesthood or religious life or even marriage for that matter. But then also too, part of seminary. We go to the seminary obviously because we think we're called to priesthood, but then we have 6 or 8 years of seminary. So we also believe the church helps the future priest discern as well. So through the seminary faculty, through the bishop, they help you clarify that calling. And even for me, when I first entered seminary, I didn't feel 100% sure this was what I was supposed to be doing. But I obviously felt called to go to the seminary to try it. In fact, even when it was Bishop Myers back then, even when I first met with him, I said I'd like to try this for a year, seminary. And he said, well, why don't you try it for 2 years? And I said, okay. Obviously I kept going, and 6 years later I was ordained and felt clear that this was what God was wanting for me. So yeah. Hard to accept? I suppose, yeah, at times, right? Probably, again, the first couple of years was a little bit more, I don't know what, probably even just my level of maturity, and there's more questions. The farther along you go, you get to know more priests, you get to know more seminarians, more questions are answered, your prayer life gets more established, so you become more at peace about it, or at least I did. What was your question again, Mel? Did I answer it? Yeah, okay. Anybody else? Yeah.
What was your favorite part of seminary?
Favorite part? I'd probably say that, especially once I got to Mount St. Mary's in Maryland, or look, as a quick thought would be, probably the fraternity, the friendships. At the Mount St. Mary's there's, what, 130 guys, all pursuing priesthood together, playing lots of different intramural sports together and just hanging around in the hallways together, having lunch and dinner. Just with a bunch of guys that are all on the same page, so to speak, that we're all pursuing priesthood, we're all trying to figure out our Catholic faith together. I think that was something that I enjoyed a lot about seminary life. So yeah, even, like I said, playing soccer and different sports and socializing with guys all on the same page. Yeah. Anybody else?
Do you think it was the right decision to become a priest?
Yeah. The right decision. Right, because obviously once again through the discernment with the church and again my personal discernment, right, obviously I've promised this for the rest of my life. So yeah, I mean again, I guess similarly you might say even in marriages sometimes people have doubts and questions, but yeah, it's important even for priests and for all of us to continue our prayer life, to continue to go to confession, to continue for us priests, talking to brother priests, having the good support there to keep you going. Yeah.
What do you do in your free time?
My free time, I used to like to run, but my lower back isn't so nice to me anymore. But for exercise, yeah, some exercise. I like to read. You know, it's interesting. I didn't like to read until I was in seminary. I had to start reading a lot. I was in technology when I was in college, so there's not a whole lot of reading. I went to seminary. It's philosophy and theology. Lots of books to read. So that was a little tough at first. But now I like to read. I'm still not a fast reader, but I like to read. So either spiritual classics on the saints, and I also try to keep a literature classic going. Right now I'm reading a book called The Betrothed. It's an Italian classic. Actually, the reason I'm reading it, Pope Francis said it's his favorite, I don't know how you, his favorite novel. So if you're looking for a good book to read, this, so yeah. And I suppose catching up with friends as social media, I've gotten into that a lot the last few years, so probably like most people, I spend too much time on the internet, but social media stuff, trying to see what's going on in other people's lives. How much time we got on there now?
4 minutes.
Okay. Any other questions?
I think they all have questions, so you can, everybody has brought a question today, so we can kind of go through.
All right.
What do you do for fun?
What do I do for fun? I guess it's sort of like, I assume my free time. I do like watching a good movie, and probably getting together with other priests for dinner or lunch or whatever. Of course, going to see family. Yeah, vacations, which I'm just getting ready to go out to Montana in February. I was just working on that vacation, so a handful of us priests. So looking forward to that for fun. Yeah. Anybody else?
What do you do on a typical day?
On a typical day, I guess like most people, get out of bed, take a shower, and have breakfast. And obviously daily mass is part of a priest's morning routine, and then our morning prayers, morning prayer, and there's some office of readings, so of course some scripture readings and lives of the saints that we read from every morning. And then obviously either I come over to school sometime in the morning, catching up on phone calls or emails. Sometimes it can depend on meeting with people, hospitals and nursing homes, that's another common thing. Yeah, and then I think it just kind of sometimes depends on different meetings, whether it's group meetings or individual meetings in the afternoon or evening. Last night I met with an engaged couple, so they're getting ready for their marriage, so marriage prep. I think tonight I have a baptism class, so couples getting ready to baptize their little baby. So yeah, that answer the question, I think. Anything else? I guess you might say a priest's day, the celebrating the sacraments and then preparing people for the sacraments and teaching, and of course like the administrative stuff, that's, I guess you might say the important things we do, or the, yeah. Anyone else?
What made you want to become a priest?
What made me want to become a priest? I'd probably say through prayer and through talking with other priests, feeling called to do it or try it. Yeah, obviously a calling to prayer, feeling called to be a person of prayer, feeling called to help serve others and help others grow closer to Jesus and help others in their prayer life. Yeah, again, interacting with people, I think that's also, I enjoy that part of it as well. And I would say, I don't know if I thought of this as a young, yeah, I mean, priesthood, it is an adventurous life or an adventurous vocation. All the different people, all the different situations that we're called to or pulled into. It is an interesting life. lots of variety and lots of different things we do, yeah.
What was your confirmation name?
My confirmation name was James, and my mom encouraged me to pick James because that was her dad's name, so James. And as you know, there's, what, James the Greater and James the Lesser. I can't remember which one I picked, but I should know that, but it's James anyway, so one of them or both of them, two of the apostles. So, yeah.
Who is your favorite saint?
My favorite saint, I sort of, I guess you'd have to say the Blessed Mother, but saints that, the Curé of Ars or Saint John Vianney, he's the patron saint of all priests. So of course his life is also very interesting. Saint Don Bosco, he did lots of youth ministry stuff. I think he's also a very interesting saint. The two really smart saints, Saint Augustine and Saint Thomas Aquinas, so they're interesting to read or get their ongoing insights from. Yeah, you know, it's something too, St. Vincent de Paul sitting on the wall there. Did you know he was captured by pirates once as a priest? So that's kind of an interesting little, if you like pirate stories. Yeah. And I'd say too, speaking of the Blessed Mother, she's on the wall over there, which is good. Yeah, I started wearing, kind of even, I think, part of my vocational calling, wearing the miraculous medal and the scapular. When I was in college and with the Marian prayer group Knights of Immaculata, which is based on St. Maximilian Kolbe, he was the Franciscan priest that was killed in the concentration camp by the Nazis. Anyway, wearing the miraculous medal and then also starting to wear the scapular, praying the rosary. So I do think that the Marian devotion thing was definitely a factor in my vocational calling. Probably even part of my growing up and maturing, taking my relationship of the church seriously. Yeah.
Did you know that when you were in the seminary that you liked it?
Did I know that I liked it? I think it's similar to earlier. I mean, right, some days are better than others, yeah. But I do think that part of a calling of seminarians or even religious sisters that, yeah, that you have some sense of peace and joy about being there. So yeah, again, everybody has difficult days, but at the same time, right, if you're completely miserable all the time, well then, it's probably not your calling. So, but yeah, so no, I enjoyed it. Yeah, there was a good peaceful time. Yeah.
How much gel you put in your hair?
What did he ask you? How much gel
How
did
much
you
gel I put in my hair? 2 little squirts.
What's your favorite thing about being a priest?
My favorite thing about being a priest, well, of course, it's spending time with 7th graders.
Right.
But after that, I'd say, you know, celebrating the Mass and hearing confessions, I suppose those are probably the more, confession in the sense that not all the time is it exciting necessarily, but there's times when you know that you're clearly helping somebody when they're struggling or when they've got their sins to be taken off their soul. As a priest, to know that you're there for them to help them concretely and specifically with that sacrament. And then if you give them some good advice, or there's times where you feel like you're able to give them some advice and they, I mean, not the Holy Spirit working, but to know that you've helped somebody in the confessional is very rewarding. I think in celebrating Mass, to know that we're bringing people the Blessed Sacrament, we're bringing people to Jesus in the Eucharist. And, you know, similarly, there's times where you feel like your homilies are connecting with people, and of course that's rewarding. I mean, you don't always know for sure if people are getting it or if you're saying it right, but sometimes you feel like, okay, this is working. So those are rewarding times. Yeah.
Favorite color?
Favorite color? Black, of course. I don't think I really have a favorite color, really. I like a variety of things. Yeah. But I'm not too flashy, I don't think, with colors, but I've probably gone through phases of, I think when I was your age, maybe I really liked the color maroon. So anyway, anybody else? Are we out of time? How much time you got on there now?
14 minutes.
All right. Why don't we wrap up, start that, we can hit the stop button and start.